It is time now to bring in our State House Insiders. Dave Wilson, our Republican strategist, Antoine Seawright, our Democratic strategist. Lawmakers here in Columbia taking care of some business they did not get to by the end of the regular legislative session. First and foremost, the budget, Dave. They've still got work to do.
The state budget has gone into conference committee, so you've got 3 members of the House, 3 members of the Senate. They are going through line by line imagine this at home, folks. When you're going line by line through your budget, they're going through line by line of hundreds of pages of the state's budget and spending billions of dollars of state funds. And so that's a long process, but the lawmakers are going to be coming back to vote on that bill. And then it will go to the governor's desk, where he will probably veto several items, and then the lawmakers will come back one last time at the end of this month to handle the governor's vetoes.
Conventional wisdom will tell you there's not much to fight over, but in an election year, you throw out conventional wisdom and you just say there's everything to fight over. So the budgetary process at this point is all about jockeying, mostly between the House and the Senate, not necessarily a partisan thing, but more a chamber thing. And I suspect that the governor will do the political thing and lawmakers will try to undo his political thing and do what they feel to be the right thing, mostly for the sake of their primaries coming up in the upcoming primary elections in, just about a week or so.
Right. And so when you think about it from that standpoint, JR, so often the governor has what's called a line item veto, can actually go back through and say, I'm going to veto this item, veto this one, and give a reason why. And then it goes to the House and the Senate. Do they override the governor's veto or not? And quite often, because we're a legislatively strong state, they will do that. And it ends up going into law anyway.
Antoine, you mentioned the primary. It is coming up next Tuesday. Early voting ending tomorrow here in South Carolina. At last check, we're on pace to break early voting numbers from a couple of years ago. What would you say to voters at home tonight watching, Antoine, that haven't made up their mind what to do come Tuesday?
The most important thing you can do for yourself, your family, and your community between now and June the 11th is cast your vote. There are a lot of things that people are unhappy with. There are a lot of things that people are confused by, and there are some out there who are happy with what they have in terms of representation. Regardless of where you fall on the map of those line item things, I think it's important to make certain that your voice is heard. And even if you do not have an election, please encourage those who do have primaries in their area to go out and participate, because you cannot be mad in November if you don't cast your vote happily in June.
That is absolutely the case. Antoine's right on that. And the thing about it, folks, is you can go and you can find your ballot. If you go to scvotes.gov, you can put in your name and your date of birth, and it will pull up your actual sample ballot, so you can see what's going to be on there, so that you can start making decisions before you get into the voting booth. It gives you a chance to look online to see where candidates stand on issues. You've probably seen tons of names that are out there on political signs all across the Midlands. And so you want to know who these people are and what they're supporting and what they're voting for and how they're going to be voting on certain issues. And JR, the other thing that really kind of goes into play here is keep in mind that more than 40% of the Senate and more than 50% of the South Carolina House are going to be decided in the primary election process, which means that half of those members of the House and the Senate are going to have already made it through and are in essence going to be the eventual representatives and senators in the state of South Carolina. That's a place where you at home have a really important place of voting, because think about this. Half the people who are going to be elected to state office at the State House will be elected by next Tuesday, or the runoff, which comes up 2 weeks later.
And Gerald, let me just make one point. In the primary, you have to make a choice. You either vote in the Republican primary or the Democratic primary, and that does not impact how you may have voted in the presidential preference primary, but you cannot participate in both.
All right, let's talk about something that's happening 3 weeks from tonight, the first presidential debate. As we preview November, President Biden and former President Trump, the presumptive Republican and Democratic nominees, moving forward. Now, Dave, what are you expecting 3 weeks from tonight?
A non-audience brawl. I expect the rules have been set so that microphones are going to be turned off. It is really going to be an opportunity for both President Biden and President Trump to get out there and tell what their visions are for America. They are contrasting themselves dramatically already, JR. And I think when you start looking at how this particular debate is going to go down, it's not like we saw with the other one. So the first debate in the last cycle was almost an embarrassment, the arguing that just went back and forth constantly. And I think the way that this one's going to be structured is going to be very limited. There is no audience, and they're going to turn microphones on and off, which is going to make it seem a little bit more like debates we were used to prior to 2020.
I would just say, let's first see if the former president shows up to the debate. He has a history of not showing up to debates and doing his own thing to draw away from the audience. He did not participate in a primary debate at all, Dave, if you remember. So let's see if he shows up, even though he has agreed. In fact, his daughter, the RNC chairwoman, has already indicated that there may be an indication that he may not show up. So number two, if he does, I think you look for more of the same. I think you look for the president and Joe Biden continue to try to advocate his place and his space for how he tried to bring this country together coming out of a pandemic and try to do things in the name of bipartisanship. But I think you're also going to see the president, the former president, play victim to the system, say that it is Joe Biden and those who are trying to criminalize him and so forth. More of the same behavior we've seen from him since he's allowed himself to be in the public sphere in terms of elected office.
And it really boils down to it, JR. You're only looking right now at somewhere between 11 and 15% of people who have not made a decision about how they're going to be voting. But it really boils down to a key set of less than 10 states, what we call the battleground states. And so it's in those states, folks, that you're going to be seeing the fight take place. In South Carolina, we're predominantly a Republican state. We have predictably gone as a red state for the last several cycles. And so when you look at that, they're not going to be battlegrounding here. They're going to be in places like Ohio and Pennsylvania and Michigan, places where Donald Trump surprisingly won in 2016. And that's going to be where you're going to see that debate and that fight taking place on the presidential trail.
Antoine, you get the last word here. Go ahead.
I would just say to Dave, I disagree fundamentally. Although the presidency may be determined by a few states, there are other things on the ballot from the White House to the courthouse that everyone should lean in very heavily, because we talk so often on this program about how important local races are, from congressional to state house to state senate to gubernatorial to local races. They will be on the ballot all across this country, including South Carolina. So I think it's important that we do pay attention at all levels of government.
All right, Antoine C. Wright, Dave Wilson. Guys, as usual, thank you so very much for your time. As usual, for all things politics, you'll find it on our website right now. Simply go to WLTX.com.